Well, hello, everybody. This is The Scoop. I'm Farah,
And I'm Nicole.
and we have some special guests today. How about we introduce ourselves and what should we do? A fun fact or your position, whatever you guys want to do. So, Marie, do you want to start? You're just the top
Sure.
left of my screen.
I'm Marie. I've been with Sonnenberg for almost 25 years now. One of the lead BCBAs and Director of Quality Assurance.
Thank you. How about Brittany?
I'm Brittany. I am the Director of Training and Lead BCBA at Supervision Consultants. I've been here for 8 years, I believe. Fun fact is that if I could do anything in the world, it would also be like going out to eat every single day.
We'd
Me
do
too,
that
Brittany.
too.
I love
What
food,
kind of food? Would it be different
all
food?
of it,
Oh,
all
all
of
of
it. I
it?
love everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wish I was like that.
Oh,
I strive to be like you. I'm pretty narrow, two different areas. All
that's
right,
tough.
Charmaine.
I'm Charmaine. I'm Director of Leadership. I've been with Sonnenberg for about like 11 years now. Fun fact is I don't know. I love to have fun and dance.
That's awesome. I
Yes.
love that. I like to dance, but I'm not good at it. I try, but all right, Melissa.
I'm Melissa. I have been at Sonnenberg for almost 15 years, and I am the uh, client services director of client services.
I
And
love it.
I like to crochet.
And we have Emily.
Hi.
Hi. We're just introducing ourselves and how long and a fun fact.
Oh, okay. I'm Emily O'Neill. I'm the clinical director at Pleasant Prairie. Fun fact about me, I don't really know. I have a twin sister and I'm born on Christmas Eve. That's usually fun. So,
Marie, did you give a fun fact?
I don't think I did.
I got a couple that I could use, but I want to hear what you say.
Um, oh, fun fact.
What were you gonna do if you didn't come? What was one of your jobs that you thought about doing for a career?
Oh, I had aspired to be a truck driver for a little while.
Love
That's
that.
my favorite. Was it over the road?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I
see,
wanted to do.
yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Um, okay, so and Emily, how long have you been with Sonnenberg?
oh, right. I did miss that question. I've been here almost 9 years.
Awesome. So we have a lot of our leadership here. And Nicole, do you want to explain kind of what you guys have gone through and was just certified in and kind of the process? We're kind of picking off of last month's podcast, and then we can kind of go into that.
Yeah, so this leadership team went through some training with Nasia, and we spoke on our last podcast about reflective practice and some of the things that she was doing throughout our organization. So they participated in weekly meetings with Nasia to learn the micro skills and what reflective practice is and how it can be embedded into supervision as well as parent guidance or caregiver guidance. So they're all here today to talk about their experience, and we have some questions that we'd like to ask them. So we can probably jump right in if that's okay with everyone.
Sounds good.
All right. So let's see. Should I just pick people? Maybe I should.
Sure.
All right. Okay, so Charmaine, can you explain like your experience so far with reflective practice and how this has maybe changed how you lead?
Yes, I think my perspective on reflective practice has like modified just to even to be able to like reflect in general and like create the capacity of like time to be able to reflect, especially like in our field and um, teaching that time is there It's just like how to prioritize the time to be able to reflect and incorporate it in like what we're currently doing. And it doesn't have to be a long process. It could be something like real simple as if like, what worked or like what didn't work or like what will be modified next time. Simple, like in supervision in general, and then like that be it. Like, and I think before I was thinking like I need about an hour. Like we got to sit down and talk and just to be able to like modify that and do that to like on the floor, like, okay, great job, like reflecting in this moment and then moving on to like the next thing that needs to be completed. It's kind of like how it has shifted for me.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question real quick? Because this is has to do with last night. We went through just so we went through a training last night and it kind of was this is my perspective, a good spot check to see like where we're at with different groups in different areas. And what I kind of learned last night is it kind of made me just think of it right now is how you said, like I thought I needed an hour, I thought I needed a time, and that's when that was some of the messaging yesterday. So I'm curious as we go through and we start certifying other people and training other people, how that will evolve. Because I think that was definitely something that kind of came up quite a bit yesterday. And you're saying it's actually quite different than that, right? You don't have to say like, I mean, you have to hold space, but it's a little
Yeah.
bit different than what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yes, I think being able to like find the spots in the moment to embed it in like the supervision or like right after the supervision of embedding it into the framework of the flow of supervision so that the time is there and to create that time and where we can like pivot.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting because it was some reflection yesterday as I was listening um to everybody of what they were saying and the different like levels and different areas, of different kinds of in-depth training. So, okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Nicole, if you have another one
Yeah, I have
for
plenty.
some.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So, Brittany, can you tell us about maybe like some challenges that leaders or yourself have maybe seen as far as like building the capacity to engage in self-reflection? I know Charmaine talked a little bit about like the time and embedding that into like our everyday practices. Were there other challenges that came up, or maybe like with the interns as well to kind of take on this practice, or what that could look like?
Yeah. Something that I've come across is like it being like, okay, this is another thing that I like have to do.
Mhm.
And so things we've done with that is reframing it of like, this is something that you can do. This is another tool that you have. And how can you integrate it into what you're already doing? Because a big thing is always like time and space. Like we're always looking at being hands-on with staff, with clients, looking at billable hours. But this is already something that we can just really fit into things too as well. And it's also a great like proactive procedure too. And so once that buy-in is there, I see a lot more of it being done, but it's more of a reflection of like, are we doing this ourselves? Like, are we checking ourselves as supervisors and modeling it and testing that and really normalizing it, like for the next group of clinicians coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that like where I've seen like the most change in myself is like yeah, like embedding it into what I'm already doing and creating a practice within myself to have the self-reflection. So everything we learned doing it first and then being able to kind of teach others how to do that and just like building the overall capacity for reflection.
And I thought that was cool. Again, last night we did like kind of a spot check of that, and that was the message too that everybody, even if they haven't gone through what you guys have all gone through, it was we have to model it, we have to live it, we have to breathe it, we have to. Otherwise, I always think of what Dee said, like Charmaine, how you talked to Dee, and she was like, "You're a reflection of what's around you or your room," and that's really sitting with me because that it really reflects back on like what control or what you're doing versus what is Brittany doing? What is Marie doing? It's like, what is Farah doing? So I thought that was good too. Kind of a spot check.
Mm-hmm. Speaking to that, Farah, last night there was a lot of talk about psychological safety, and ways to create that in your teams or for your teams. How did that conversation last night maybe compare to or align with some of the reflective practice that we're doing now?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's all embedded. I mean, that was the words that she was bringing up and the things that she was talking about, it's all the same. Like I just thought it was very interesting to see with the different groups or the seniors versus just kind of the different areas, assistant directors and that kind of stuff, to see what the response was um, and what was still something that seemed um, more urgent versus not, or we don't have time, we don't have time, we don't have time. I could tell like there were some people that kept saying that, like we don't have time, we're doing this, we're doing that. And so that was interesting to me. But in the end, when we were reflecting back and kind of summarizing, that's what I loved about it, is that they were all like, well, we got to model it. So if we're not modeling it, or we're moving super fast, or somebody comes up to us and says, "Hey, Farah, I've got an issue, or I'm really struggling with this, and I don't have hold space for that, or have time, or at least schedule a time or something," that then they shut down. So they don't feel safe, or they don't feel like they've been heard, or they don't feel important. So we went over a lot of that, which is everything that you guys are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like creating that in your everyday space, supervision, everything, regardless of what position you are. So I think that was like the message overall. And there was a lot of little things that we talked about within that, but though that was a big like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's why people shut down and say the things that they do or don't.
Because there's not
Agree.
like space and to do that.
Yeah, like just we did inflators and deflators. So things that inflated us, so like made us successful and made us feel safe, psychologically safe. And so we did that whole section on that, and then the things that deflate us. And that some of the things I was just saying was more of a deflating thing. So another staff had said to me, and I was in a group with a couple other people, and she had said, "Yeah, that actually happened today." Somebody came up and said to me, I tried to talk to she didn't even say who it was, but I tried to talk to so and so, and I just felt completely deflated. I don't want to interact with them anymore because they didn't even look at me. And we talked about like body language and being present and all those things. And they just kind of like was like, yeah, 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 and so I don't really want to talk to them and I don't really want to work with them anymore. I don't know who she's talking about, but that's an example of even when you're busy, how do you still hold that space and give somebody that safety of like you can come to me, you can talk to me. It might not be right now, but like you can come to me. Let's take time or whatever. So that
Mm-hmm.
was a good example.
And
Yeah.
being able to reflect too on that, Farah, like how that coincides into the reflective supervision pieces of like asking yourself those questions too of like, how am I showing up to supervision? And when I am showing up, so that situation in general, like if they process back on that conversation and be like, oh, did I give them eye contact? Did I turn my body towards them? Was I responsive or was I too busy? And then to be able to circle back around after that reflection to go back in to restore the relationship.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. I think like areas that we've also spoke about as maybe potential things that hold us back from engaging in self-reflection is it can be a process that can be like potentially judgmental on your own self and your own behaviors. And so how do we take a look inward with compassion? And I'm wondering, Marie, what you do for that to build a capacity to compassionately like look and how you can maybe help others do that too.
Well, I definitely think helping others do it is a lot easier than doing it for yourself. Um, but I've been trying to, especially going through this whole process with Nasia, noticing areas that I'm doing really well in and areas that I'm not doing really well in, and trying to take that step back afterward, reflect on it, and not just focus on the things that I didn't do well and how I can fix that, but also thinking about the things that I did do well and the things that I did hold that integrity for myself as I did do these things. I did, listen, I was curious. I didn't try to, end the meeting too soon just because I had to be somewhere else, but looking at the ways that I did well in it and then spending some time with that as well as the parts that I could have done better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that balance of like, here's some areas I can do better, and here's the areas that I'm being successful in.
Yeah.
I think we've also talked about in leadership meetings and when we get constructive feedback that it's important to also identify that there's a behavior or a system that is lacking and not like a person, if that makes sense. So it's not like me as a person, it's like maybe a behavior that I did or engaged in that maybe that's where the feedback was coming from. And or there's maybe a system that like is not in place that's causing maybe like misalignment or causing some of the like constructive feedback to come through, and what that looks like, because I think a lot of times like it's easy to hold everyone else's kind of like emotions on your back and walk through life that way, and that gets really heavy, as we can imagine. And it's not about that, it's about like differentiating between a person and a behavior.
We
I know.
talked a lot about that too, Nicole, is separating those and what that looks like as a behavior. So
Yeah.
that was good too. I didn't realize so much of kind of the way you're saying it, but I thought that was good too, is how is that displayed or what behavior is that? What does that
Mhm.
look like? So, and then we did talk about system, didn't we? Talk about systems and like something might be like we want consistency and like we want to know what we're doing. We want to know where this goes. We want to know it's just kind of that was talked about too. So I like that you brought up like it's not about the person. It might be a lack of a system or something that's missing. That's so it's not. I think that's a really good reminder because it's really easy to take it on yourself. I mean, I think everybody's guilty of that because we're trying so hard to look back and reflect and say, how can I pivot or reframe or do this differently? So it's really easy to say like, oh, at least for me, like, oh
Mhm.
man, So thanks for saying that too, because that's a good point.
Yeah, and I know Charmaine's done a lot of work like surrounding that like psychological safety like framework and what it means to like compassionately look. And Charmaine, I don't know if you want to share like just some of the activities that you have been like working with leadership on engaging in that practice.
Yeah, so I think being able to develop like the compassionately looking in, because I think kind of like what Tim Marie said, it's easy to like do it for other people, but when it comes to like doing it for yourself, like we aren't so nice to ourselves. So we've been developing like different assignments or like worksheets surrounding some of those like inward pieces of like just reflecting in. And with our, of course, the line of work that we do, it is like fast paced. So there was also recommendations of like how can we make this like condense in a way that we can do this in the moment, but it's not so like work heavy to like a long period of time. And I think just being able to condense some of that work too, to like look inwardly and reflect just simply three questions, like what worked, what didn't work, and then what would I do differently next time after like different things that come up. And just looking at it very factual and not involving like evaluation in that too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I want to speak to the guardrails too in this because I think we've also done as much as we have looked inwardly and done some self-reflection, we're also looking at what behaviors can I alter and what is maybe out of my scope, to not take on everyone else's emotions as like our own. And I think that speaks to the guardrails. And we kind of changed that kind of verbiage because at first we were calling that micro scale gatekeeping. And we kind of framed that into guardrails because it's really talking about boundaries and what is in our scope, what's outside of our scope. I think, Melissa, you're really naturally good at this. And so, like, what makes that like possible for you, if you could speak to that?
I mean, I think I'm always looking at like what our intention is at work. And so when I coming at a question, I'm like, well, what do you need at work to do that? Like we still have to get it done. And I get that you're having a moment, you're having a rough time. What can I help you with? What can I take off your plate? Can you train me to do something else? Can I give you something? Can we do something else? And helping people to prioritize because it is about the work. And so when I come at it from that standpoint, it helps keep those guardrails up. If they need a moment, they can go take a moment, things like that. But we really just focusing on what they need at that time to get the job done.
Right. Yeah, it's that like anchor back to the work piece because we do have to get the work done. And we're all human. And so there is emotion with that. There, like, we do at times have a high stress job. And so, how do you navigate through that? We also are heavily in a human services field. And so, how do you navigate what everyone else is feeling and doing and still anchor it all like back to the work? And we talked a lot about that. We're also all natural helpers. And so, we want to help everyone. But if we're going outside of our scope, then how much is that helping the other person when we're not the experts in that area? So there's been talk about that as well. Does anyone have anything else to share about like the guardrails or their experiences with that?
I think with the guardrails is like what I'm finding is that there is like placement of like, okay, that's outside of my scope. And then like the other approach that is taken is like, well, I don't want to shut them down when they're like, opening up and giving me this information. So they kind of let it go the other way. And I think learning like that of how to redirect and pivot the conversation back to the work of what Melissa was talking about is a skill set that I think that we're forming and developing as an organization. But I do think that that's a hard thing to process of like, okay, when do I make this pivot and still hold the connection?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the relationships are at the forefront of what we do, and the work is there. So like if you have these like relationships and connections with people, it does make the work easier, ideally, I would say. um but then at the same time, like, to have a relationship is also like bi-directional. And so there's a part of responsibility and accountability I have to that relationship, and same with that other person. And so like bringing that piece together and making sure that it like that the intention is there of like, okay, so like why are we talking about this, or why are we doing this, or why are we maybe having this healthy conflict? And it all goes back to providing quality services for our clients and for our families, and making sure that that's like at the forefront of why we're making the connections we're making, kind of thing.
Does that seem to still kind of be an area that people are still very apprehensive or nervous or developing? Because I feel like we've talked about a lot yesterday with that too, in all the different areas. Would you guys agree with that? And so is that just still an area that people are just like, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Like, I don't want to, right? That's what I kind of heard.
I think so. And that's when we talked with Nasia too about the difference between being nice and kind.
Oh yeah, that's the one that I'm confused about with the two words. I'm like,
Yeah,
which one's kind and which
because
one's nice?
you're not always going to be nice. Because that would mean, this is my perception of it, is that would mean that you would be in agreement potentially.
Okay, so that's how nice is used.
Yeah,
Like
like
people
you're
are saying
nice,
you agree
you're
with me.
yeah.
Okay.
And you can deliver feedback while being kind with
Okay.
the intention to empower, with the intention for growth, with great intentions, and be kind in the delivery and still give the feedback. And it's not going to sever that relationship as long as it's delivered in a way that contributes to the why. And when we look at the why, it's in what we do and who we service.
So do you guys all think and during your training, did you talk a lot about like that initial connection and like trying to build that up? Because it can be severed sometimes too, of course, like something, goes off the rail or whatever, but don't you think that's super important in the beginning of your relationships? Because then like I listen to Charmaine all the time and she's very direct and goes right in, but she has a great like foundation. And so even though some of the if it would have been like me going into that and I don't have that foundation, they'd been like, what are you, you're a jerk, like, but you guys are laughing, you know what I mean? So like, or sometimes you're not, but like, it like works itself out, right? So what would you say about that piece? Because that's something that we spent like a long time on is that building that connection and that relation, that foundation. Does anybody want to speak to that and kind of how that rolls into it and how you kind of
I mean, I
build
think
it?
some of it for me is that we're a team, and so like when I'm providing feedback, I'm also like asking for like their input as well. Like, how do you feel like that's going for you?
Mm-hmm.
When are you able to get that done or not done? What are your barriers? Okay, let's break those barriers down. So like it's like, hey, they know. I mean, so they're reflecting with me at the same time because we're coming up with a plan together. Okay, so how are we
Mm-hmm.
going to help you get your stuff done?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, what are you gonna do?
Correct.
It's together.
Correct. Like,
It's
what are
that
we doing? Like,
collaborative.
can you help me prioritize? I'm gonna give you all the things I need to do. You need to tell, like, and then we'll go through and be like, that's a need. Like, that's at the top. That one, you just put that one down. You get time, you can do it. And, like, do more of that, like, where it's back and forth together, where we're coming up with that plan together. So they are getting that empowerment that way,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also reflecting and telling me what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. That's great.
I think that initial relationship definitely has a big impact on how you can give the feedback and how the feedback can be received. Because if I'm comfortable with them, if I know that they're comfortable with me, if I have that relationship where we've had a lot of good, safe conversations, then it's a lot easier for me to give feedback. And I would assume it's easier to take that feedback because there's that level of trust. Where if you are giving feedback to somebody that you don't have that relationship with and you don't have that trust with, you definitely have to be more careful how you give the feedback, and it could be taken differently because there's not that trait that trust or that, even that psychological safety.
Well, and I thought that was interesting because she said yesterday, psychological safety is different than trust. So
Mm.
didn't you say that? That they were different? Wasn't those the two that she used? So what did you guys take from that piece and do like where does that fall in? Because don't you trust if you're feeling psychologically safe or no? It's just feeling, what's your guys' thoughts on that? Because that was something I never thought about separating.
Hmm.
I kind of think of it as like that trust is more of that, like that accountability portion. Like I trust that this is going to happen, or like, I trust that like this is what you're going to do. Whereas that psychological safety is more of that environment that you create around that.
Mm. So you separate it by environment versus
Like
almost
action.
like what I'm hearing you say too is like, I know you're gonna hold, like integrity almost,
Yeah.
right? Like you're gonna
Mhm.
follow. Is that how you look at it?
Yeah.
You guys look at it that way? I just thought that was interesting because she separated it and I never thought about it that way. What do you think, Nicole, about that? Because she said they were different.
I mean, I can definitely see what Brittany's saying because like trust for me is also earned in a sense. And what I mean by that is through what she's saying with like accountability and like integrity and like through action. Um because if you're yeah, like if I know that, hey, I'm going to give these tasks and you're going to get them done, or I know that you're going to come to me if you have questions, or like just things like that, that builds like trust. I think that trust can sometimes be like an individual thing because some people have trust for everyone until the trust is gone. But again, there's an action behind when the trust gets lost too. Um, and then the psychological safety piece, yeah, I do look at that like environmentally to an extent of like um creating like a space for and potentially like being open and asking questions and getting curious surrounding like what a person is saying to me,
So
because
the
if you are
environment,
open they're going to do that, the safety is going to build too because they're going to do that again and again if you create a space in which someone feels comfortable to share with you, and that looks like being open-minded, listening, getting curious, all of those areas, all of those kind of like micro skills.
so then like the environment with that is creating psychological safety over time can build trust too, right? Like that's, is it the
I think
building of
so,
it maybe?
yeah. I think so.
Because if you like, so if you're building this environment and they can ask any question, right? Or a concern or whatever it may be, and they come to you and say, listen, I'm struggling with this and this is why, and I'm upset about this. And then you react in a way that is open and present and, then maybe act with integrity of following up. Maybe that's an example. Then that maybe that builds trust. So is that maybe the differences as you go along? Because if you don't, then you don't build trust. You
Mm-hmm.
might have been psychologically safe because they came to you and they felt okay about it. Could that be maybe part of it? I don't know. That's just something to think about because she really separated those, and I thought that was really
Yeah.
interesting. So something we could kind of keep exploring because I think that I could see that. There's people that I think are really, really, you could tell them pretty much anything, but then I have in the past gone like, well, I'm not really going to go to them because it's not going to get done. They're great
Yeah.
people that make me feel really comfortable, but I know that I'm going to leave and it's going to be done and nothing's going to happen. So maybe that's, I don't know. I just think that's very interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. And sometimes things don't need to be done either. So like I could be
True.
psychologically safe with someone to share and not need anything done or need to necessarily trust that something's going to be done. I don't know. I can see, but I do see trust building within that too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
yeah, it is.
So yeah, cool.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think that another thing with the micro skills as we talk about um normalizing and having healthy conflict and getting curious, and we will continue each quarter. We have different micro skills that we're kind of focused on that we're building off of one another. And so I want to point out like how we normalize mistakes um and create vulnerability surrounding that. And I'm wondering, Emily, if you have any insight to like how you've been able to do that, or even for yourself to be like, to be vulnerable
Mhm.
and to still be a leader.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been hard in some instances where you're kind of like expected to like not make too many mistakes as a leader. Like you kind of have like some expectations, but like it's never going to be perfect. So instances where you can be vulnerable and kind of like make sure like the intentions are there to like um I guess, reflect and then kind of show intention and accountability for that, like has really helped me because then it kind of it models it for our staff or leadership that like I can make this mistake and take that accountability and still like we can still move forward and myself and like as a team we don't have to get stuck on it. Something I've like really worked hard for like myself is like I don't know the difference between like a mistake and like something crazy going on, like my body doesn't. So like I'm working personally on that, but like to be able to work through that like micro skills and the different things we've been working on and training and like big on reflection has really helped me like model that like I can make mistakes and that's okay. And then hopefully like that will like spread and like what we were talking about last night. It's like what we do will like go to our leadership, will go to our staff and so on.
Mhm.
So I just think like everyone working on that, the mistakes are going to happen, the feedback's going to come with it, and we can take that at face value and not like turn it on ourselves
Mhm.
would like we can move forward instead of being stuck.
Have all of you guys, Emily, feedback on like the progress, or I don't want to say progress, but like as you've gone through this, has anybody said anything, or have you asked anybody, or for each other, have you gone like, oh man, like I don't even know, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
I
can't
mean
even
like
talk.
like talking to like the supervisors and then like because we've worked on like the different pieces of like especially like the micro skills and reflection is like we're embedding it every day. So I'm wondering like through the questions we do ask because they're coming back with more like reflective answers, I feel like I'm seeing it. But also like just for example, I had like a meeting with a supervisor and a staff and I believe it went so well because they were open and like taking the accountability and holding the space for each other, but also like are okay with the mistakes and like we're reframing things versus like keeping it negative or different pieces. Like I see it more. So I don't know if people are like recognizing it yet, but like I know I'm seeing it.
That's awesome. I mean, I like Bree is somebody that uses something every other word. So I can't even like, you know what I mean? She said a million things yesterday, and then the lady was like, "We're gonna use you for this," and you're gonna because she's so like, and it really makes a big impact because then you're like, oh, like I'm just saying about last night because she was, rattling off whatever it was, and she was the speaker in her group, but it really does make a big difference when you hear it constantly.
I
So that's
think going
cool.
from going from like the piece about time and like because when we first like began to like use the micro skills, it was like we're trying to teach it like it's not another component that you have to learn. It's
Yeah.
things that you're already currently doing.
Right.
We're just acting that you're doing it. And in developing like just awareness around like using this micro skills that we're focusing on, it still came up where it's like I don't have time to identify that I'm using, and I'm like, so then like beginning to like point out like, oh, good job, like that was a great job, like reframing that, or like I love how you normalize like these pieces, and just that part is like almost like seeing the process like happen like in front of you. Before it was like, okay, I don't have time, and then it was like we began to tact it, and then they began to become aware, and like now they're starting to use like the lingo and the verbiage, and then like noticing like those areas where they are utilizing the micro skills. So I think it has been like a nice transition to like see all the way
Well,
through.
it's a reflection on you, Charmaine, too, because Bree, you supervise Bree, and
Yeah,
what is the person I think that I heard a lot of it last night.
yeah,
So,
she's
and she
killing.
wasn't even trained in like that you guys were. So that's a really good reflection on you,
Yeah,
and how often you use it.
yeah,
So you're right. It's just making it so it's actually easier because we're already doing it. We're just calling it different things or not labeling it, like you said. So it
yeah.
actually makes it easier. That's how I look at it.
I personally like to point out my mistakes
Mhm.
because I feel
Mhm.
like everybody is so hard on themselves. I'm like, guess what?
Mhm.
And all we can do is move forward. You can't do anything. It's gone. Like
Right.
Mhm.
in the past, you cannot do anything about it. You can learn from it and go forward. And then in client services, we like to do a good audit. And like, well, wonder what else I made a mistake on. Let's go check.
I love that.
And then you move forward.
I will have to agree with her. It is nice because you do a lot where you're like, oh, or was I just not doing my job that day? And then
You do that.
those small pieces, like it, without even knowing, creates like an environment of like, oh, if Melissa made a mistake, I can make a mistake too.
That's so true. And I love the I don't know too. I think that's great.
Mhm.
You don't know a lot of the times, right? I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
What do you think, Brittany? What have you seen?
Um, I've seen a lot of like supervisors doing it more. I've also seen like try to do things too that were a little bit uncomfortable for myself, and now it's it's like not uncomfortable. It's just like part of a routine. It's just like after something, asking for that feedback of like, what did you like from that? Like, what did you not like? Like, what would be your feedback of like how you'd want me to approach that again in the future? And just normalizing those types of conversations. Because then they just become normal. And then someone sees that and like, oh, like Brittany's asking like for feedback on how she can do like better and do like something differently next time from someone who like she's supervising, like make like I can do that too. And like that'll be that next thing of like we all like make mistakes. We're all looking for that feedback. We're all looking to see like how we can grow because really that doesn't end.
For sure.
Brittany, what was your phrase that you like to say? You can't break the ABA.
You can't break the ABA.
Phrase that sticks with you.
I do.
Like
It
they
does.
Love that.
Uh,
That's awesome. Okay. What else do we got? Nicole, what other fun questions do we want to build on? What about the families and the
Yeah,
clients?
I would like to talk about that and how reflection can, because we've talked about reflection of ourselves and how that impacts how we supervise other people. And I want to bring that back full circle to how that impacts the families and our relationships with the caregivers. And so, can anyone speak to what that looks like and how this framework has kind of like helped that too?
I would say like I've noticed I've been able to be like more curious and like ask more questions to families and then ask them like questions like how they showed up for something that was like especially hard and realizing like some things just like are normalized like in our conversations with parents. I feel that my relationships with families have gotten a lot better because like of these skills that we've used because like they're seeing that we like care and that we like are bringing it back to the work, of course, but like the impact of like their role and our role is there, but it's not just we're asking about goals and kind of moving on. We're asking like about what like more things in their like day to day. We're asking more things or reflecting with them or doing just adding more to the like conversation.
Do you think that the environment as far as like the psychological safety or the like there's none of us, we're just all learning, and does it bring out them to say like, yeah, I actually didn't do that instead of acting like they did something, that they were supposed to be targeting or something? Have you seen any kind of shift in that where they're more
Yeah,
open about
yeah,
whatever?
yeah, I've seen that for a few parents where like instances happen where they kind of like called themselves out or like were just like I'm doing it and then like their significant other was like right there and they were like but they didn't do it and like I mean they were like open enough and like I'm assuming felt safe enough to like do that with me and I think for instances where they do make mistakes I do have like a couple families where it's like it is a little hard but like I do tell them like it's okay you can't be 100% like you're a parent, you also have like other things going on in your life. Like, this is hard. Like it's not like easy every day. So I think
So
that's just help.
how do you hold integrity as far as like these are your goals or these are the things we're targeting versus them feeling like they failed? Like, what's that
Yeah.
balance? How do
I
you do
try to I try to go forward with like maybe an action plan or like let's talk about like those barriers and break them down and maybe we need to break that target down or like there's instances where it's like maybe this week was hard but like can we talk about like what that action will be for like next time and
that?
kind of make it more concrete versus just kind of letting it go because it is go back to like the data and having to like report back to insurance but we do have to understand like it's never gonna be like perfect and life happens. So um I try to do like different things like that.
Melissa, you do a lot of stuff too. I
I
was gonna say,
I mean, I
I was
think
thinking of you.
I really like to make sure the goal is going to work for the whole family. So
Mhm.
like I will ask like, is that going to work for the siblings? Like, what does dinner look like? If you they're not mandating and they're just taking if you put all of the or they're like they were eating too much because the whole family was like eating until all the food was gone and like they were maybe overeating. I'm like, what would it look like if you guys put the didn't have it on the table and
Mhm.
all of the food was in the kitchen? And she's like, okay, I can try that. So like that kind of thing, like asking like, what does that look like for the whole family? Is it, if you do it for this kid, does it affect this other kid? Or how does it affect if you can't, you're not going to ignore the behavior, right? Because three other kids aren't going to. So like that behavior plan might not work for your family. So what can the family do? And so just making sure that we're including that part of it in there. And then at like the end, I use my reflective practice too. Can you reflect what did we talk about today? What are you gonna do? So like I ended as like I'm almost like a summarizing what the plan is for next time. And the family that I work with she takes notes. So she looks back at it and she will flat out be like, oh yeah, no, didn't do that last time. Whoops. And we're like, okay, well then. And if we have that a couple weeks in a row, then I'm like, okay, so is that goal important? Like you're not remembering to do it. So is that an important goal for you? Because it's not my kid, it's yours.
Mhm.
So if the goal needs to be meaningful to the family if they're going to meet it.
Well, it's got to be priority too to them. It's got to mean something. So what I'm hearing everybody say too, I mean, tell me if this is what, it's just applied to all environments, right? So if you're supervising a staff, it really is the same thing as if you're working with families and if you're working with techs, because it's really, again, laying these steps and these micro skills and the psychological safety and all of the different things. I know that that's not always what we talked about in that, but it's all kind of embedded. Would you guys agree with that? It's just replicated across the environments, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, it might look a little different in every environment, but I definitely think that there's components that you have to have, no matter if it's the staff, the families, in every environment, you've got to have that.
Because that was kind of what our goal was too, is to start with leadership and have it trickle down. So then the end result is it's all with, techs and then to the families, to us, to the families. So it's kind of going up and down and all around, embedded everywhere, right? Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I think it becomes a culture. And so what does a reflective culture look like? Is really what our intention is.
Yeah, that was kind of how we started yesterday's meeting too, was culture. So it's just interesting to hear different and how cultures are formed. And if you
Yeah.
don't intentionally work on your culture, it's going to form. And it's going to form something that is going to look probably different than what you're necessarily wanting.
Hmm.
Right? Isn't that kind of what we were talking about yesterday? So this is very intentional
Mhm.
that we're doing what we're doing and creating kind of this space and intentionally embedding micro skills.
Yeah, and there's a framework for this too. It's about connection, it's about attunement, it's about reflection, it's about empowerment. So we kind of started with that care cycle, and the micro skills allow us to put operational definitions to the actions that we're doing. And a lot of the things we do naturally in our everyday speaking to each other, it's just tacking that and putting a label on that so that we can teach what we're doing and being able to model that.
So I think we only have a few minutes left, but if you could we maybe summarize in a few sentences or in whatever summary of what this looked like from beginning to end and how it's impacted you the most and maybe even your own life. Because I think it's really hard to just do it at work. I think you have to kind of, it changes you, you know, in the way that you interact with life. Could you guys maybe summarize that and what that looks like from beginning to end and where you're at now versus then? Or maybe it didn't impact you at all. Hopefully that's not true. Marie, do you want to start? What can you tell us kind of where you started and where how it impacted you the most?
Sure. Well, I definitely got a perspective that I didn't have before. I realized how, I'm good at listening, I'm good at problem solving, but I'm not always very good at being in the moment. And sometimes I'm too quick at solving problems rather than getting curious and asking more questions. And it's changed the way that I think about not just the way that I supervise people at work, but yes, just like you were saying, just the way that I interact with people outside of work, where I want to get on to the next thing. I want to, move on to the next thing and not really holding that space for gathering more information, getting curious so that I can better be a problem solver or help someone else be a problem solver. So, yeah, that definitely gave me a perspective that I didn't have before.
Brittany, do you want to go? Thank you, Marie.
Oh, uh, I would say the biggest, I was looking at like the overall takeaway of it. I think of two of them, one of which is actually acknowledging those items happening in the moment and like taking that pause of like, okay, this is what that is too as well. Like not only like for myself, but for others. And I would say one of the other biggest things would be reframing. And so more of that formalized training on, okay, what is that actual need of it? So versus like, I need you to do X, Y, and Z because that's what's outlined. And why aren't you doing it? Of like, okay, let's look at making you more independent. How can we get there?
Mhm.
And just seeing the impact of that, with the shifting of that mindset.
That's awesome. Charmaine, how has it impacted you?
I think for me, like the transition of like, okay, this is a lot of information, but I like it. But how do I fit it into the culture of a fast-paced environment? Not like on purpose or like right or wrong, fast-paced, but I'm saying like it's just the nature of, our jobs. But like, how do I fit this into a fast-paced environment and also get buy-in to the value, like the valuable pieces of like utilizing some of these skills and like implementing in them and tacting them and then using the care cycle, knowing too, like with the psychological safety that you're not going to get every single hit in every single conversation of like, sure, maybe I connected, maybe I was in attunement, maybe I reflected, but then I forgot the empowerment piece. Like knowing that there are going to be some pieces that are missing and being okay. But I think the work is the reflection. And I think that is the part that I was like hyper focused on, like, okay, I'm doing the work and accepting that I'm not going to do it at 100%, even 80% every time that I go through it. As long as I'm taking the time and space to actually reflect is like now where I'm at.
Yeah. And it's just ongoing, right? Just keeps
Mm-hmm.
going, it's continual. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like a beginning and an end every time. It just keeps going.
Yep.
Yeah. Melissa, what about you?
I think I've learned more to take more pauses and to sit in the uncomfortable.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I still need to grow in both those areas.
I love that. Emily, what about you?
Um, I am similar with Melissa of like these areas I want to continue growing where it's not always just going to be like a solution to everything. Because that's what we do. We try to find like the solution of like all our things.
Let's
But
fix it.
yeah, something I really like about this is that it's like, how do we bring it back to the work and like, how do we service our clients and our families? But like, a big thing is like, we are working with each other and we have to have these connections and relationships to run this place. Otherwise, if we don't have the staff, we don't have the clients, we can't do the work. So, like, it is really important for our day to day, like, whether it's a small moment of like, when we say hi or a bigger conversation that needs to be uncomfortable, like it's just a really like integrated part of our day. So there's a lot of impact.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's been the most impact is bringing it back to the work because that's where we were like kind of floundering of like, what do we do? Because we're talking for 10 hours about the same thing, like what do we do? So I think that's been really good. Nicole, what about you? What's been your biggest,
Mhm.
impact?
Yeah. I have found this experience very freeing. And what I mean by that is it's very easy for me to go from meeting to meeting to meeting and have the agenda, and I'm very task based, and go through the tasks, and to engage in the reflection piece, even if it is after the meeting, to really have the ability to, because like Charmaine said, it's not going to be, and I'm not going to be 100% every day, and I'm not going to hit all the points in a meeting and things like that, um, all the time. And the freeing part is to reflect and come back and do that differently next time. And I think that was the part that I was missing, and it allowed me to like pause too, and really take some time for myself to see like where I'm at, and go back and maybe explain something more, maybe reframe it, or maybe, like, so that part has just been really freeing for me to like be able to do that, because I'm not going to be 100% perfect in every conversation.
That's awesome. I can't wait to come back to this and, however much time, 6 months, a year, and follow up with you guys and just kind of see where we're at because this is the first round. And what we're looking at doing is now starting with another group. Did that start or not yet?
I don't think that she started it yet, but she does have the next group, and they're aware of that, and so it's just a matter of scheduling those meetings. So the next group's coming up.
Yeah, so that would be I actually I have a question for you. Do you guys think it would be good, and maybe we can talk about this, later, but would it be good to talk to that group beforehand and just talk about like, I don't know, where they're at now and then what it looks like later? Because we're trying to keep building on this and it doesn't necessarily have to be on the podcast, but would you guys have done anything differently as far as like maybe in the beginning or were you nervous about that like coming into this? What are your thoughts on that? Because I really want to kind of learn as we're going through what we can kind of pivot or adjust and get more from the beginning to the end as far as how we're talking about this. Do you guys have any suggestions or did you
I
like
mean,
how it all happened?
I don't know exactly how to do this, but and maybe it's about normalizing that self-reflection, like, can be hard, and you can be hard on yourself like through the process. Like, I wish I had more foundation going into it to be more compassionate and to show more self-empathy. I think that would have helped me. I built that over the course of this like series, and I continue to build that, but I think that that foundation would have been really helpful. And maybe it's not like that you can change that for people, however you can tact that this might be difficult.
Ah, okay. And that's kind of what Seat's going to be talking about, right? With the self-compassion, or right? Is that why we're doing that? Part of
Yeah, because
what
we were trying to find like workbooks or just resources for people to develop the self-empathy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Anyone else have anything to add that would be helpful for the next group besides what that kind of self-empathy piece? No?
I don't know. I kind of like that I went into it without any like preconceived like notions. Like I'm just going in there with a blank slate. Whereas like maybe even after like a week or two, maybe a check-in. So that way like they would have that same blank slate.
Yeah,
That's
I
a good
like
point.
that.
I think you guys are, we've been working with everybody too, and it's going to be a testament of how well we are empowering our staff
That's true.
as staff
Mhm.
where they are. They're not, they shouldn't be at the same spot that we were.
Very true.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're not.
I mean, that's true. A lot of them have a foundation already.
Mhm.
So
That's very true. We've been doing a lot of stuff for a lot of years. It's just this is very much bringing us back to the work. I think it's really anchoring us. Well, thank you, you guys. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. This is so cool, and I'm excited to see what this happens in this next group, and check back in with you guys and have you guys back on when we think it's a good time. I really appreciate it. Do you have anything else, Nicole?
no, thank you all for being here.
All right, till next time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.